Hello and welcome to a pre-Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving week edition of Starside Chat. I am one of your hosts, Aaron, and with me as always is Zach. How's it going, Zach?
Pretty good. I guess we're both still fighting illnesses, which is why we did not have an episode last week. But
it's true. I've been under the weather. You'll probably be able to hear it in both of our voices.
Yes.
But we both independently got sick last week, and we're still sort of fighting it off.
I joked that you gave it to me from a distance, somehow electronically. You sent it to me. But it is that time of year. People are getting sick. And I hear that cases of the common cold are up right now. So I guess you can't avoid it forever. But we will power through. I'll have a lot of editing to do, I'm sure, to get rid of coughs and clearing of throats and stuff like that. But yeah, we got a lot of Game Awards type of news to talk about this week and some other fun stuff. So I guess let's dive in. Did you by chance see this video that Nintendo put out showing Super Nintendo World? Donkey Kong Country is now in Super Nintendo World Japan.
I did. It looks great. I was listening to a podcast. I don't remember which one, but they were talking about how the Super Nintendo World, both in Japan, but more specifically in America, it's just like such a stark contrast to the other parts of the park because everything in Super Nintendo Land is just like, everything is thought about. Like all the food is themed correctly. Everything is exactly how it should be. Whereas like if you go to another part of that park, I think where is it in?
It's Universal.
Yeah, they just have like Harry Potter's Big Pretzel or something where it like doesn't make any sense. Whereas this, like, I mean, if you go to that Toad's Cafe, every single piece of food you get is like a work of art. And similarly, this Donkey Kong, they have crazy food you can get, which I think is maybe the most interesting part. But yeah, they did a tour of every part of this new thing, which I think it will eventually also come to the American park. But
yeah, they talked about, I think they said it's coming next year to the Universal. I think that they have it in California and they're adding one in Florida, or maybe it's the other way around. I don't remember.
I think it's in California.
Yeah. But
it looked great, and I love to see Miyamoto hanging around. He got to take a picture with Donkey Kong, or at least a person in a Donkey Kong suit.
That suit seems elaborate. Like the fact that he's able to sort of have the long arms and like beat his chest and still sort of have his hands almost like on the ground or whatever. It's crazy.
The main attraction of this world is the minecart ride, which they showed a little bit of, but they only teased it. But rumor is there's like a part where the cart comes off the rails, just like in the game. Obviously, it's not fully off the rails, but there's a part where it makes it seem as though that way.
I remember we talked at one point because there was like an article about it before we got this like little deep dive showcase where it talked about how it was supposed to sort of mimic jumping over like the broken parts of the track.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know how that's going to work, but maybe we'll find out once it finally opens and they're actually able to get some people in the park and they'll show it off. But
you know, I didn't put this in our show notes, but they did also announce, this is unrelated, but it's tangentially related. There's going to be two Minecraft theme parks that are being built and opened up, I think in 2025 or 2026.
Oh, really?
Did you see the new Minecraft trailer?
I did not, no.
A lot going on in that trailer.
Does it look awful still?
You know, I don't know. It doesn't look great. I think it's a movie that I might rent, but I definitely won't go see in theaters. Probably the next thing I'll see in theaters would be the next Mission Impossible movie, which that trailer does look great. But I don't know. It's just such a weird vibe. I mean, it's interesting. They are really leaning into the crafting in the new trailer. There's like much more story. I'm very curious to see. I mean, whatever they do, it's going to be very divisive. But I'm interested to see if anyone likes it.
Yeah, I mean, the trailer looked awful. So
the first one was not great. They did not put their best foot forward. The second one was equally pretty bad. It also seems like maybe every one of the people is coming from a different time period, sort of. I don't know. It's confusing to me.
Yeah, I mean, everything in that trailer is going to be in the movie, so I can't imagine that the full movie is going to improve upon how bad the trailer looks, but I don't know.
It reminded me of, this is a weird callback, but have you ever seen or heard of I guess it was a book first, but they did a sci-fi original TV show / maybe just a movie called Riverworld?
No.
I think I maybe only saw the first part of the movie or the first episode of the miniseries, but it started out with everybody like waking up in an ocean basically and going to shore, but like they found out that everybody was from a different time period. So like there was like a British guy being like, what happened with the World War or whatever? And then there was like an astronaut who died upon re-entry, and he was like, well, I was just in space, and a very crazy thing, but I haven't thought about it in a while, and I just thought about it just now. Riverworld. I wonder if it's good.
Coming soon to this podcast, a full review of Riverworld.
I'm going to look it up after this for sure and see what's going on.
Do we want to knock out some of this other news before we get into Game Awards stuff? So Sony intends to buy From Software's parent company. It was sort of one of the big pieces of news this last week. I think the parent company is Kodakawa.
It would be a crazy get if FromSoft Games, I mean, if Elden Ring 2 is only on Sony, if only on PlayStation, that would be insane.
Well, and it would enable them to do more like Bloodborne stuff, which I'm sure would love to do. But it sounds almost like this is a little bit more like, Sony wants Kodakawa because they want like the manga and anime stuff. And it just so happens that PlayStation would also love to have From Software. So, that would be sort of a crown jewel in their arsenal, so to speak. But it's not confirmed. It's not like absolutely going to happen, but it would be huge if they did actually pull the acquisition.
What an acquisition
off.
That would be.
Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, we always see these big companies purchase these studios and then there's all these layoffs and everything. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but I don't know. I almost want studios to either stay independent or not be swooped up by all these companies. But
I agree.
But I know it would be a big feather in the cap for PlayStation to have From Software as making exclusive games for PlayStation. But and then another one for PlayStation, and this is a kind of a cool thing. They are adding an update to the PlayStation Portal that's going to make it so that you can finally cloud stream PS5 games that are in the PlayStation Plus catalog. So this is something that they sort of took a little bit of flack for not having out of the box when it first launched, because it seemed like an obvious thing to do. But at the same time, we were like, well, but they probably don't want you to just be like, oh, and now I don't have to buy a PS5. I'll just buy this $200 handheld and stream games that way. And now they're like, well, go ahead and do it. so yeah, I haven't tested it out because I'm not sub to the one that would give me this.
What's an example? Do you know any of the games they have like in the cloud range?
I would have to look it up. I know it. I think that's probably the more expensive tier, but
is it like old stuff, like N64 game, or not N64, but
like PlayStation and stuff? Yeah. I don't know, because I know that like the expensive tier is the one that gets you all the classic games.
Yeah.
I would have to look it up. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know which ones are like in the sort of cloud stream library for them, but it is cool. It is something that maybe I will check out. I haven't turned on my portal to see whether the update has arrived or not, but definitely a cool thing. They are like slowly building it out. Recently they also added the ability to like sign in through, I don't know if it's through a browser, but to be able to sign into like hotel Wi-Fi stuff, which was a problem when it first launched.
Yeah.
So they're like slowly sort of building out the feature set and improving on it. And that is Very cool, because it is a cool device, and I think it a little bit maybe will inform whatever the next console generation for PlayStation will end up being. I think there probably will be some sort of handheld involved in that. So,
well, speaking of handhelds, I have a Switch 2 rumor.
Okay, hit me with it.
For whatever reason, like the least good news, like the most unsubstantiated news to me always comes through like the Google News app. I don't know about you, but like I feel like I always swipe on my phone to the left and it's just like, what's going on with this actor? And then it's like an article that is about nothing, basically. It's like they had a birthday or something. But that happened with this, and I saw an article. Apparently, and this maybe means nothing, there is a blogger / streamer whose name is Steven_George. And he says he got some marketing material for a game. And in that marketing material, that game was going to be released in Q1 2025. It'll be coming out on Steam, Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, PS5, and Nintendo Switches, which is with like a parentheses ES at the end. Dash, that's right, plural. So, according to this unsubstantiated person who I have never heard of before, this game supposedly is going to be released on multiple versions of the Switch in Q1 2025. What do you think of that?
It could still be like it will eventually come to Switch 2.
That's true.
I mean, but it is very exciting. The prospect of it coming out that early.
We've talked about that. Let's start talking about the Game Awards. They had the nominees, but I want to know, what is your over-under for, like, what out of 100%, what percent likely do you think it is that Keighley somehow pulled his strings for the 10th anniversary and got the Switch 2 reveal?
I mean, that would be huge. And it would be awesome. And I a little bit hope he did, because obviously I want to see that trailer, but also it would add so much excitement to the Game Awards. But I don't know. Because Nintendo, weirdly enough, has sort of almost not had much of a presence at all the last couple of Game Awards. And I always am
They were big for a while. Like that one Game Awards that was really great, they announced the Breath of the Wild DLC. And also I think like 2 or 3... Smash Brothers characters, and it was like insane. But yeah, they've kind of stepped back in recent years.
Yeah, I keep expecting them to make like some sort of announcement during Game Awards, and they never do, or at least they haven't for a while.
Yeah.
So hopefully they make a triumphant return with a huge Game Awards reveal for the Switch 2.
It would be I mean, it's the 10th anniversary. He's got to do something crazy.
Yeah. And hopefully it's not like bring out some old Hollywood actor who has nothing to do with games again. That's like, one of his things is he wants it to be basically like Hollywood for some reason. He's like dead set on, I don't know. Well, like it adds some sort of air of legitimacy to have like Hollywood somehow be involved. And it's like, no. The Game Awards and like the games industry is much bigger than Hollywood, actually. And we have our own culture. We have our own celebrities. You don't need to go bring Al Pacino out, who has nothing to do with anything in terms of games.
Like, such a wild way to start the show. Yeah. That was the first thing that happened in the show.
Yeah, it's insane. So yeah, I don't know why he does that. I think he is a little bit because he's big friends with Kojima, and he also is like very big on Hollywood, and he has all these Hollywood friends. But Kojima like can put them in a game.
True.
Keighley just puts them on stage for no reason. But yeah, there were like a few things that made people mad at the Game Awards, and Keighley a little bit, because one, like if you want to create your own Game Awards show, which I feel like a lot of outlets do, although not necessarily to compete, but they'll like call their top 10 or whatever their Game Awards or whatever.
Makes sense. I mean, they're giving awards to the games of the year.
Yeah,
like
it's such like generic terminology that I feel like you can't trademark it. But that's what Jeff Keighley was trying to do. Apparently, he was trying to trademark literally the words Game Awards to prevent anyone else from doing an award show with those words. And I feel like you can't do that. Plus, also, it's a little, I don't know, it's not a good look. I feel like, but
I agree.
And then they added, for this year's Game Awards, they are making it so that expansions and new game seasons and DLCs and remakes and remasters are all eligible in every category. And so everybody was like, oh, this is just a pretense for you to give Elden Ring another Game of the Year award, even though it didn't come out this year. So this is like sort of a hot button issue, a hot topic. What do you think of, I guess maybe we can talk about the Game of the Year nominees so that we can sort of delve into this topic a little bit. But
so I don't know. I everyone who played Elden Ring or Shadow of the Erdtree loved it. And it was like a big undertaking. Obviously, it's not another full game, but it is a lot of content.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, frankly, Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty was also just like, I didn't beat it, but I got pretty far in it before I started doing other things. And that's also like, it was a huge 2.0 update, which similar to Elden Ring, they added a lot of stuff even if you didn't have the DLC. So I don't know. I mean, I think it does depend on length a little bit. Like if it's a DLC where you only get like a couple missions, obviously, I mean, that's probably not going to be nominated. But
my question is, why not just make a best DLC of the year?
Yeah,
just
I mean,
make a category.
That's not a terrible idea.
I don't know why it's this hard. Like Elden Ring doesn't need another Game of the Year award, basically. True. Is what I'm saying. And I think a lot of people who played Elden Ring and loved Shadow of the Erdtree are also like, why is this here? Because you put that there and now suddenly one game doesn't get nominated for Game of the Year. And there are a lot of people who are pointing out so many other games that could have been there. You know,
Animal Well, for one.
Well, Animal Well, but you've got Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth didn't make it.
Yeah.
You got Stellar Blade, a lot of people pointed out. You got Helldivers 2. I mean, what is that?
List them out.
What is that Silent Hill remake or whatever a lot of people were gunning for? None of those games made it because of this DLC. So yeah, basically we're dancing around it. But Shadow of the Erdtree is one of the Game of the Year nominees.
It's Shadow of the Erdtree, Astro Bot, which I think is a favorite to win. Balatro, which I also think people are all about winning because I think they just think it would be funny if it won. Black Myth Wukong, Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which by all accounts is probably a very good game. I didn't get to play it, but I don't think it's going to win. And then Metaphor Refantasio, which
I think
I also don't think is going to win.
I was going to say it might be a little bit too niche, but I almost think that it is a dark horse winner. Yeah, in my mind.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it. I definitely don't. The only one I for sure don't see, well, actually, the two I for sure don't see winning are Shadow of the Erdtree and Final Fantasy VII. I think any of the others could win. And in the absence of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, my choice would be Black Myth Wukong. And I threw it in the show notes as well. Black Myth Wukong did already win Game of the Year at the Golden Joystick Awards. I think this game has enough love out there because, I mean, we talk about the sales. It was like a sales juggernaut this year, and it had it set all these records for like Steam concurrence when it came out. So like it's probably the biggest release of the year. The media for some reason does not like this game, and I don't know why, but all the fans, everybody who plays games, love it. And it is sort of I feel like there's a sort of a FromSoft bias out there, not necessarily FromSoft, but like a Souls-like bias is probably the term I'm looking for, where if a game comes out and is good and is a Souls-like, everybody's going to be on board for it. People love the style of game, and Black Myth Wukong is that, and it's a good version of that. And so I think that's why people love it. But family friendly and having, broad appeal Astrobot, but it's also locked to PlayStation.
Very true. Yeah, it's only on one platform.
So that's something to think about. Balatro and Black Myth Wukong are on everything. Balatro's on mobile. You can play that on mobile. Yeah. So
I haven't played any of these games, but my prediction is I think Balatro is going to win because, one, I think it's a really good game, but also I do think it would be funny if it won. And so I think that people are going to vote for the one that would be the funniest. I think it's between Balatro and Astro Bot, because both of those, at least on my social media algorithms or whatever, I saw everyone talking about how great both of them were, and people continue to talk about how great Balatro is.
Yeah. I've said all year, basically since it came out, that Balatro is like definitely a favorite to win both the like indie game category and to be a Game of the Year nominee. And it's one of those games that you sort of don't think about because it's not like a big AAA game. So you have your eyes set on something like Final Fantasy or something like that, and then all of a sudden Balatro ends up winning. I was like, I can definitely see that being the case this year. So it would not surprise me to see it win. It also wouldn't surprise me to see Astrobot or Black Myth Wukong win. And honestly, if any of those three won, I would not be upset. So, because I like all three of those games.
Now, what other category? I have two other categories I want to talk about. Is there a category you'd like to discuss?
What are your categories?
Best independent game and most anticipated.
All right, so for you, this is Animal Well, right?
Well, I don't know, because like Animal Well, I love, and I hope so. It's nominated for here, and it's also nominated for best debut indie game. And I would be happy if it won just best debut, because frankly, best indie game, UFO 50 is nominated. And I think that's just a juggernaut that people aren't aware of yet. Like, I still think that this is going to come out as a launch title for Switch 2, and it's just going to like truly blow everyone out of the water. Because right now, only people that like play on computer are aware of it. But this, like, once Nintendo people get their hands on this, it's going to be a juggernaut. So another situation is Balatro could just sweep.
I was going to say
it will win.
I almost think it will be surprising if Balatro doesn't take all of them. It could. Even if it doesn't win Game of the Year, if it wins all of the indie categories, then I think that would make sense. But
I think so too. I guess my dream is that Animal Well wins at least best debut. And then I could see UFO 50 winning best independent, but I think you're right. It probably will be Balatro. But I want Animal Well to win something because I just love that game so much.
Yeah, I just think Balatro is too big. Like, too many people are playing it. It's got too much good word of mouth, and it is like super addicting. And like, I mean, it's poker, but it's not poker, and it's I don't know. It's just like somebody taking something that we all sort of know, but innovating on it in such a weird, interesting way.
Yeah.
That it has become this like smash hit in the indie realm. And it is great. And I have played a bunch of it and would love to play more of it because I think it's great. And I've played it on mobile. I've played it on PC, and it plays great on Steam Deck. It is a very fun game that I have to say. It would not surprise me if it swept all the sort of indie categories. But
let's talk about most anticipated. The nominees are Death Stranding 2, On the Beach. I did not remember there was a colon.
Yeah, I did not either.
Ghost of Yotai. How do you say that? Yotai?
Yotai?
Grand Theft Auto 6. Metroid Prime 4. Another Beyond. I forgot it was Beyond. And then Monster Hunter Wilds. Now, I texted you that it was very interesting that, oh my God, I forgot. Silk Song.
Conspicuously missing is
Silk Song is conspicuously missing from most anticipated, which it has been in multiple years in a row. And every time Jeff Keighley does one of his weird depth of field Q&As where he's like sitting in his weird office. People are always like, what's going on with Silksong? And he's always like, I don't know, man. So he's aware people want Silksong. And it's pretty suspicious that it's not in most anticipated. Could this be something that comes out? I mean, Zach, it's insane that we haven't heard anything about Silksong because earlier this year in April, I was talking about how it got listed in the ESRB or whatever. Like the ESRB has rated this game, which is towards the end of development. You can't add content after that. So like, where is this game is my question. And it could be that Keighley got the big get and we're going to get I don't think it's going to drop day of. I think they're going to want to sell cartridges of this thing.
Well, but if they do that, then editions. When would it launch?
Good question. I don't know.
That's
but
why
I feel like they would be crazy.
If it wasn't in this category, maybe that's a sign that it's going to be a hot drop during the Game Awards.
It could be. I just feel like they're leaving so much money on the table by not having special editions.
Well, they could still do that. So what was the timetable for Hollow Knight when they did it? Didn't it drop originally digitally only probably, and then they did
I mean it was a Kickstarter.
Yeah. So you and I both bought Hollow Knight carts for Switch. So I mean they could still do it and people will just double dip on it, but
that's probably true. They probably want people to double dip.
But in the absence of Silksong in this category, I'm going to say Grand Theft Auto 6 is definitely going to win.
I agree. I think it is something that is very much people are looking forward to. I don't know that didn't they say it's not coming out until 2026 though?
Oh, did they? Maybe they did. I don't remember.
I think they did. I feel like my memory is that like when Dune 2 came out, there was like a red carpet and I was watching like a clip of it and somebody was talking to Timothée Chalamet and they were like, hey, what did you think about like how GTA 6 isn't coming out until 2026? And he was like, what? Oh, that's crazy. And then he just like walked off.
That's funny.
So it probably will get nominated next year also.
Yeah, I guess that's true. If I wonder if they almost do need to make it more specific, like anticipated for next year. And if they have said that, you know, it's not coming out until like 2 or 3 years down the line, you can know you don't put that on the list.
Yeah, no one's putting like the next untitled Elder Scrolls game on this list. Like we got to tone it back and just do like things that have definitive release dates.
Right. I don't know. I feel like they could do a lot to sort of refresh and shore up the categories because they seem, I don't know, sometimes bizarrely messed up and not great.
Other categories you'd like to touch on? Those are my main ones I wanted to talk about.
I mean, the ones that interest me are like best RPG or maybe even best narrative or something like that. But I almost, it's another weird like award show thing that I always bring up. Like, how could a game be the best of its category and not be nominated for Game of the Year?
Yeah.
But I want Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth to win whatever it's in. And
it's in Best RPG.
It is in Best RPG. And I think it's in Best Narrative as well.
That would make sense.
Although, like, I could give that one to Final Fantasy VII, honestly. Because for me, like, we talked about this when we were talking about that game, but I love everything about the story, the characters, the world, the music, all of that, such that it is like Game of the Year level stuff for me. But there was a lot of gameplay stuff I didn't like, and that means it does not qualify to me to win Game of the Year or even like its best RPG category. But I don't know if people are more mixed on this one for some reason. What was your sort of take on the response to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth?
I think people liked it. I think it suffers from sort of a Tears of the Kingdom syndrome where the first one was so iconic. Like that Final Fantasy VII remake blew everybody out of the water because they were like, this is what a remake can be. This is insane. This is like the whole this is a full game of just Midgar. This is blowing my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one was like, I mean, they added so much stuff. I think the main criticism I heard of the second one was bloat. There's like way too much stuff. There's like the Gungaga region or whatever is just like a real pain to play.
That was like a big thing for me. Like when you got into those open zones and there was like a bunch of like repetitive open world type activities or whatever, that's when it really sort of bogged down for me, to the point where like at first I was fine with it because I was like, oh, I'm new to this. This is new stuff. Let me do all this. And then like later on in the game, you would go clear like a story beat, and then it would be like, hey, we just opened up this region for you. Don't you want to go do all these open world activities again? And I was like, no, I don't. Let me just go to the next story beat and skip all of this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it did suffer from bloat. And I had my problems with like the combat, especially there was like a chapter where you were forced to play exclusively as, what's his name? The little cat guy.
Red 13?
No, the little cat.
Oh, Kate Sith.
Kate Sith. Yeah, you were forced to play as Kate Sith, and I hated that chapter so much. Like, I was about ready to quit the game because I did not enjoy it so much. There's like a box throwing mini game you have to do in that, and all of it was terrible. But again, like story wise and all of it, so good. But yeah, just a lot of bloat. So hopefully they learn lessons from that for the next part of it.
I think they will. I think they took away some good lessons from it. Because I even think there was an article I read, the headline to, a couple of days ago, that was talking about how there's going to be less mini games in the third one.
Yeah, they tried to do too much with that for this one for sure. But
did you like that weird chess game I can't remember the name of, like Queen's Gambit or whatever?
Oh, Queen's Blood, I think is what it was called. Yeah, that was fun for a while. I eventually... like I got to the point where I had enough good cards in my deck that I just stopped needing to really worry about swapping stuff out. And if I just tried it enough times, I would eventually get it right. I feel like some people got way more into that than I did, but it was fine. It wasn't like, it didn't knock my socks off, but I also wasn't like anti doing it whenever it popped up. You know what I mean?
Zach, we have one more category to talk about.
Okay.
It's, of course, one of the most important. Content Creator of the Year. The nominees are Queso, Illawan, Techno Gamers with a Z, Typical Gamer,
all one word,
and Usada Pecora, who seems to have sort of a bunny theme going.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that one's one of those VTubers.
Yeah. I have not heard of any of these people.
I was going to say, I haven't heard of any of these people. So what's your choice?
I always watch these. I always watch these with my wife, and she always is like very excited for when they announce the like best esports coach or like best esports team. She always gets her phone out because she wants to take a picture of all the crazy names everybody has.
All right, well, who's your pick for content creator of the year?
It's gotta be Queso. He seems like he didn't even know he was nominated in this picture. It seems like this picture is taken as someone is telling him the Game Awards are a thing.
Yeah, he's like, what? Very clearly, his profile picture for this, he's standing outside a Waffle House, and it looks like he was surprised that his phone had a front-facing camera when the picture was taken. So that's one of the biggest categories, I'm sure. Now, who's your best esports athlete?
Hold on, I gotta pull these names up. Are these in any sort of order? They're not in alphabetical order, are they?
No, they're towards the bottom if you go to the full category page or whatever.
The nominees are 33, Alex Sib, Chovy, Faker, Z-Woo, and Zach, take it away. How would you pronounce this? What a wild thing this is. I guess I'll take Chovy seems like he's a chill dude. He's giving a thumbs up. He's the only one giving a thumbs up.
He seems happy to be there.
I got to give it to Chovy.
I'll go Chovy as well. I don't know any of these people or what game they play, but I maybe I'm just out of touch, but I think it's hilarious to call them esports athletes. You gotta call them esports gamer, but athlete seems to denote that they have some sort of physical sport that they play, and that is not the case. But
it's crazy because like these awards, these kind of ones that are kind of like shunted to the bottom, these are the ones where like whoever is doing like the dual hosting, he always has like a person on a second stage who comes up and just like bangs out like 5 awards back to back. And we don't even see these people. So I would imagine it's going to be one of those where Keely's like off getting a drink of water. And it's just like whoever the next host is being like, all right, let's knock these out. And then we'll see some more trailers. So like, we're probably never going to see Queso.
Man,
if he wins.
We won't get to see Queso and Chovy. That's the real shame of the Game Awards.
I just want to see him give an acceptance speech.
It's true. If they brought him out on stage.
Have you been to a Waffle House before?
I don't think I have.
Like our pal Queso.
I don't think.
I think they're mostly in the South.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They're pretty good, though.
I don't think I have. Isn't that where you get chicken and waffles?
You can get chicken and waffles there. I think, so a thing that I think is a bummer to me is that a lot of times when you go to a diner, they only have Belgian-style waffles, which are fine. But like a Waffle House style waffle is, I think, better than a Belgian style waffle because it's it's basically an Eggo waffle. It's like a flatter. There's not as many ridges, but there's more little divots, so you can kind of get more syrup in there. Really good waffles, really good. I used to do kind of a scrambled eggs waffle hash brown type of deal. There's a bunch of like crazy stuff you say when you're ordering. Actually, a very interesting thing for anyone who wants to look this up. There's a weird way that people who work at Cracker Barrel at Waffle House like take your order, where like it depends on what they put on the plate. So like if you say I want like 2 waffles and some hash browns and I want like bacon or something, if they like put a fork on the plate in a certain orientation and then like a butter packet and they've like flipped it upside down and turned it counterclockwise, that's how the chef is supposed to know exactly what to make. And so they never write anything down. They just put plates down with different things in different orientations. And like, that's how they learn how to do I keep saying Cracker Barrel. That's how they do Waffle House orders. And it's just very crazy. I don't know why I know that.
You know something very specific about it that I definitely don't. But
I think a show did a story on it or something. Or maybe I saw a TikTok about it. I don't remember. But Waffle House, if you have the chance, I would say a really good restaurant.
Well, we're not yet to your parting wisdom, but that's a solid parting wisdom.
I have another thing for parting wisdom. It is food related.
Okay. Well, we're staying consistent then.
Oh, yeah.
But what if I told you that the jury of people that gets to vote on the Game Awards come from outlets such as the LA Times, New York Times, Rolling Stone, Variety, NPR, and The Atlantic? Did you know that any of those people reported on video games? Or even reviewed them?
We voted on it.
Well, we do, but there's a jury that decides like what gets to be among the nominees, and they also vote on them. And then there is also like player choice stuff. This is another thing that a lot of people are pushing back on with Game Awards. Like there are like your typical like your IGNs and games spots and stuff like that are out there that also get to vote, but like there are all these outlets. I think this goes back to what we were talking about with Hollywood, where Keely has it in his mind that he needs these like big news outlets to like add legitimacy to the Game Awards. And it's like, honestly, who from the New York Times is voting on the Game Awards? They don't even have a video game reporter or reviewer there. They like hire some freelancer and review whatever the biggest game of the year is, but they don't really review other stuff. So it's like super weird. And they actually removed the jury for a while, and people were like, hey, Keely, you got, for transparency's sake, you got to have that. And so that was another weird thing. I think maybe it was because they still had like Game Informer on there or whatever, and Game Informer doesn't exist anymore. But
not great.
So yeah, there's like a lot of people wanting more transparency in terms of the jury, because
I think that's fair.
Who asked for DLCs to be part of the game of the year discussion?
I think you're right. It should be its own category. I mean,
just do a DLC category. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I think that's the solution.
I feel like you could solve this issue super easily, but a lot of people are like, well, but if it's big enough and transformative enough, you want to be honored for that work. Like, okay, but it's still a game that came out like 2 years ago. Are you going to give it two Game of the Year awards?
They have a category for ongoing games.
That's the other one.
So, like, just put it in the ongoing games one.
That's what they did with the Cyberpunk one, didn't they?
I think that's right, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It doesn't quite fit the category, because, like, Cyberpunk, I wouldn't consider an ongoing game. Like, an ongoing game, I feel, is something like Fortnite or Apex.
Apex, yeah.
But that's why you just add a DLC category. But
yeah,
I guess the problem is, do they have enough DLCs out there to nominate? But
yeah, I mean, you might have to skip the category if a year goes by where there's only like 2 games, or you just give it de facto to those games. I don't know.
Yeah, either that or throw it in the ongoing. I don't know. Maybe there's an answer to this problem that doesn't involve just nominating Elden Ring for a second Game of the Year award. So yeah, I wonder if there will be like a revolt from people who vote on this stuff, such that Erdtree does not even come close to getting it, but I guess we'll never know.
I don't know.
So when is this show?
That is a good question.
December 12th.
December 12th. So we're less than a month away. We're in fact just about 2 weeks away.
Yeah, so it's coming up. Always very exciting. Let's talk what we're playing and watching. So
you seem to have gotten a lot done.
I was sick for a few days. So I had a 4-day weekend that was not planned, but I knocked out those 5 Stellar Speedway levels that they added to Astro Bot, which are sort of like speedrun levels. But they were fun. They were a nice little addition, nothing like to write home about, but they basically, they're short little levels where you sort of are racing 2 birds to like the end of the level, and if you beat both of them, you sort of rescue the 2 bots that are in each level. And so since I had already platinumed Astro Bot, I was like, well, I need to jump back in and at least get all the bots from these new levels, and that will keep me with all the trophies available for this game. And so I went and did that, and it was a fun, short little addition to Astro Bot. And then I got back into Black Myth Wukong, and I am what I believe to be at the final boss of that game.
Oh, man.
Very deep into it now. It's a late game boss, and I have gotten stuck because I must have banged my head against it like 10 times last night and could not get through it. The only boss that I've really had this much trouble with, like every other boss in the game, I was able to get through in like a couple tries at most. And this one is kicking my butt. So I need to, sometimes in a game like this, I will struggle for a while, and I'll like put it down and come back the next day, and I'll beat it in like 1 or 2 tries. So I'm hoping that is the case with this one. But
that happened to me with, oh man, what was that crow game that came out like last year or the year before?
Which one?
You were like a little crow, and you were
Death's
like
Door.
Death's Door. Man, the final boss of that game, I was banging my head against that for It felt like days, and then I finally came back to it and beat it like on the first try on like the third or fourth day that I was playing.
I find that happens quite often. So it's if I'm struggling with something, sometimes I just need to put it down and walk away for a while. But we had talked about this on the show, but I had been reading Lord of a Shattered Land, which is the first book in the Chronicles of Hannivar series. I finished it. And it was great, and I loved it, and I have the second book ready to go, but I am holding off because a new Haruki Murakami book has come out, and I want to read that. But in the meantime, while I was waiting for the Murakami book to come out, I marathoned Diamonds Are Forever, because I'm also sort of doing a little bit of a read-through of the Ian Fleming Bond books, and we talked about Moonraker a couple weeks ago. Diamonds Are Forever. I actually liked this book. I think it's not one of the more well-liked Bond novels for some reason. Maybe it's just because I looked up reviews on YouTube, and there's this one guy who talks a lot about Bond stuff, and in particular the books, and he was very anti this book for some reason, but I liked it. I mean, I can understand it doesn't have one of these world-ending threats. It's a little bit more instead of trying to stop somebody from nuking London or whatever, he's trying to stop a diamond smuggling operation. So the stakes aren't as high, and also you don't really get a great sense of the villain, because unlike in Moonraker, where he's hanging out with Hugo Drax and trying to figure out what's going on there, he really doesn't have any interactions with the villain until he gets captured, which is a pretty standard Bond formula type of a thing. But I thought I had...
In the books, does he have gadgets?
Not really, at least not so far. I have heard that he started writing these books, wrote a few of them, and then the movies started happening. And once the movies started happening, he's a little bit changed his style a little bit to mimic more of the movies. I don't know if that was a popular thing for him to do, but I also don't know how much he sort of mimics them, and if having Q and a bunch of gadgets ended up becoming a thing or not. But it definitely seems like a show invention to have the sort of gadget aspect of Bond, but
it is very visual.
Yeah. But I enjoyed it. There was some really fun scenes. There's the villain's lair is this Western sort of ghost town that he built with all of his money, and Bond has to go there. And when he's fleeing with the Bond girl, Tiffany Case, who's actually one of the stronger Bond girls, I thought, at least that I've seen from either the movies or read in the book so far. And she kind of rescues him from the captive situation he's in. And then they sort of make an escape, and they're sort of being chased down by a train, which was a cool sequence that I don't think has been in any of the movies. And then they end up on this cruise ship going back to London, and the henchmen have made it aboard as well. So they have to deal with that. But Bond seemed to really fall for Tiffany Case, such that he's actually in love with her in a way that you don't really think of with Bond. So maybe the book version was a little bit more of a genuine person than the Bond in the movies. But yeah, I liked it. And I liked Lord of a Shattered Land. One thing I forgot to mention about these is I have heard that Howard Andrew Jones has a terminal illness. So he may not write any more of these books. He wrote 3 of them. And I don't know if they end off in a, complete way, or if he was planning to write more of them. But unfortunately, we're only going to get 3 of them. And unfortunately, he's dealing with that. So that sucks. But the books are very good, so I do recommend them regardless. But and then the other thing I did this last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks since we did not record last week, but I I did finish the No Man's Sky Expedition, the beachhead one, where I got the Normandy as part of my fleet.
How is it?
It's very cool. It's very cool to see in the game. And like the way it happens in the expedition is you're like using this like beacon to like summon or like try to reach out to somebody. And after you use the beacon, you just see the Normandy flashing through from warp into like the sky. You're like on this planet and it like flying up to it and it hails you and is like reporting for duty. I'm here to help or whatever.
Do you get like a sound cue of the Mass Effect theme?
I wish you did, but no, the music does like really ramp up, but it's like No Man's Sky music and not Mass Effect music. It would have been cool if it was Mass Effect music, but maybe they would have needed additional rights for that. So, but it was a very cool moment to see, and now it's part of my fleet for my freighter. So that's very cool.
Yeah.
What about you?
I have two things to talk about. I watched Tron Legacy again. Did you watch that movie when it came out?
Yeah, I like that movie.
Yeah, it is. It's good. But I also, speaking of Mass Effect music, the like score in that really, really reminded me of Mass Effect. Like specifically when there's like not a lot going on, there's these like sweeping shots of the grid, and there are some cues where I was like, man, this is almost exactly what it sounds like to like walk around the Citadel, which I had totally forgotten. And I guess they're somewhat concurrent. I think the first Mass Effect came out around the same time as Tron Legacy.
No.
Is that not true?
So Mass Effect 1, I think, came out in like 2007. I think Tron Legacy was like 2010, 2011, but they were like coming out. Like they were still making the Mass Effect games as, you know, Tron Legacy was coming out. So it was a little bit at the same time, but it wasn't like the first one and the first movie came out at the same time.
I think it definitely took inspiration from Mass Effect, though.
I could see that.
Like I would be curious to see if you watched, because the first like movie stills came out from Tron Ares that they're making, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll check this out again. So I went back and watched it, and I think if you watched it, you as well would pick up on just like how Mass Effect some of the music was.
It's a good soundtrack. I've listened to it over the years. It's Daft Punk, and it's very good.
The other thing I've been doing primarily is playing the Factorio Space Age DLC.
How is it?
It's so good. I hop on with my buddies. We say we're only going to play for like, 2 or 3 hours, but we end up playing for like 6 or 7 hours. Like, it's just it's so addictive. It is kind of like, it's like Minecraft with goals, basically, because you have to build these things out, and it doesn't really matter if you make a mistake because you can just pick up anything. Your inventory is so big, it doesn't matter if you like have to pick up a whole factory basically and move it, or just like rework a bunch of stuff. It's like so satisfying. It's great to play with a group because everybody can be working on their own projects. When we stopped last time, we put down our first rocket silo. So the next time we play, we will lift off into space, which is just like not even the halfway point of this game now. That used to be the end goal. Like you would play Factorio to get off the planet. Like that was the end goal, is to make the silo and then lift off. But now that's just the beginning, really, because there's like 4 or 5 other planets that you go to, and each one of them is an interesting puzzle. Like one of them, there are big lava lakes, and you can just like create these machines that basically pump infinite metal out of these lava lakes, which is very cool. And like metal's like a big resource. Another one is like the resources you're mining have a half-life, like they expire, they get bad because it's all organic. There's another place where you're not mining resources, you're mining like an old civilization. And so you're mining their old tech and then using recyclers to like get stuff out of the tech, which is another crazy thing. And every time you go to a planet, you unlock that planet's like technologies. So like now that you have the recycler, you can go back to your main base, and there's so many things you can do with like the recycler or like the foundry. It's just like It's so good. I think about it all the time. I love to watch people play it. It's really honestly, speaking of DLCs being games of the year, this might be my game of the year. Just because it's so hard to stop playing it. It's just like so addictive and good to me. It's so good. Factorio.
Yeah, if they had a DLC category for the Game Awards, they could have put this on there. Shame that they did not do that.
I know. This is like peak. I would have loved to see this at all represented at the Game Awards because it is. I mean, it's very niche, obviously.
As niche as good. Queso and his friends.
I mean, it could be.
I was gonna say, if they can have that category, why couldn't they have a DLC category that would highlight some of this stuff, like the Factorio Space Age DLC?
It's so good, Zach. It's so. I mean, you're not really a Minecraft guy, but like for people who are Minecraft people, obviously you've probably dipped your toes into playing modded Minecraft, but this is like a whole other thing. And I think it will scratch that same itch, but like even more so. So if you're someone who loves to play Minecraft, especially modded Minecraft, check out Factorio. It is unfortunately never on sale. So Factorio is $35 and the DLC is $35. So if you want to get the full thing, it is going to be $70, but I think it's worth it. It's like there's very few things like it.
It's strange that they don't have like a combo deal where you buy both and it's like
it would be
less
nice
than buying them separately.
Because you can't really play with your friends unless they have the same DLC. So like if you're playing this and you like it, you do have to make someone pay $70. There's not really a way for them to like just to get Factorio. They have to get the Space Age DLC. So maybe they will eventually do that because it does sound like they're not going to be any more DLC for this. Like they're moving on to a different game they've teased, but it's so good. I'm so excited I can't wait to jump back in and go to space. I love it so much.
Well, on that note, let me give you my parting wisdom. I threw it in here. It is, look up on YouTube Christmas markets. You know, we've talked about in the past, like walking tours of Japan and places like that, and that'll be like something nice to put on in the background. Specifically, we talked about like the Halloween Shibuya type walking tours that are on YouTube. If you look up Christmas markets walking tour on YouTube, you will find all of these great, like somebody has just like got a camera and they're walking around these Christmas markets in different like European countries, and they are very whimsical and fun for this time of year. You can put them on sort of in the background. And my fun thing to do in the evening after work, as I'm just like winding down for the night, is to like put on some music, put on one of these walking Christmas market walking tours, and just I'll read, for a while. And every now and then I'll glance up and see like some crazy like Christmas themed thing somebody's walking through. It's very fun.
That sounds great. They have one of these in downtown Chicago, the Chris Kindle Market.
You should walk around with a camera and record it.
It's probably very small compared to all the ones I'm seeing on these YouTube channels.
Yeah, but there are a bunch of them, and I assume very shortly we will be getting more like this year's versions of these. Right now, I think a lot of them are from years past, but shortly there will be new Christmas markets. It's fun to see. Some of them, they'll have like their stand or whatever, and they have like fun stuff sort of decorating it. And one of them I've seen was there were like these like animatronic reindeer heads that were like on the sort of coming out of the top of the stand. And they were like talking, they were speaking in some language I didn't recognize. Whoa. But it was like, that would be so crazy to see if you like were walking through here and there were just like animatronic reindeer talking to each other and like fun stuff. But anyway, what is your parting wisdom?
Zach, there's not one close to me, but we made the trip to an Outback Steakhouse this past weekend. Have you been to an Outback Steakhouse?
I have. It's been quite some time. I don't know if they have them near me anymore. I think the ones that we did have gone out, but we have like Texas Roadhouse.
We went there. I think Texas Roadhouse is a better restaurant. We went there, and it's fine. But the reason we went is because they have a new holiday menu, and we got these drinks that came with little koalas on the straws, and you got to keep the little stuffed koalas.
Really? That's fun.
And so my parting wisdom is to go to Outback Steakhouse and get a little stuffed koala.
How big is it?
You could put it on your lapel, basically. They do have a bigger one you can buy only online. I don't recommend that. But the drink I got was interesting. It was like a little gingerbread fizz. And I got some chimichurri, which is also one of my things I get sometimes. But yeah, Outback Steakhouse. It still exists, and you can get a koala there.
Well, they got to get you in the door somehow. And if they promise you a free koala, I mean, who's going to turn that down? Well, on that note, why don't you follow this podcast on Spotify, YouTube, or YouTube Music, and leave us comments and ratings, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Bye.